Hello everyone, Crow Overwatch Sapling here. The Top 500 leaderboard for Season 2 has now been released, so using it we will be creating a tier list based on the data, as well as a meta prediction based on the newest patch from December 15th, 2022. The data is pulled from the Top 500 leaderboard in Asia for Season 2 and was cross-validated between two programs developed by Flower and KM, so huge thanks to the two developers. And to be clear, the tier list is based on the original Season 2 patch before the December 15th hotfix. And using this, we can predict the next meta by looking at how the hotfix affects the tier list, as well as paying special attention to the secretly broken heroes that avoided getting nerfed. Firstly, metacomp for the start of Season 2 was as follows: Doomfist, Tracer, Sojourn, Kiriko, and Lucio, which perfectly aligns with the predictions within the community. 4 of the 5 heroes received nerfs through the recent hotfix patch. Let's divide the tier list by role. First up is DPS. Unsurprisingly, the S tier picks were Sojourn and Tracer. They each exceeded more than double the point values of any other hero in Season 2. In A tier, we have Widowmaker and Ashe, sitting right behind Sojourn and Tracer. This is likely due to the removal of the movement speed DPS passive and the buff to the reload speed passive, which allows the two hit scan snipers to be more consistent. Furthermore, the removal of the movement speed passive acted as a nerf to counter picks like Genji as well. Surprisingly, Genji, who got nerfed during the mid-season patch of Season 1, is still faring pretty well. Based on the average point value of 175 being the theoretical value of a perfectly balanced DPS hero, we can infer that Genji is currently one of the most balanced heroes. If we look at the point values for DPS in Season 1, we can see that the game is overall becoming more balanced for DPS, considering only one hero was anywhere near the golden value before. This is great news for the game in general, so I wouldn't lose hope on Overwatch 2 just yet. But it is slightly alarming that Reaper and Sombra spontaneously dropped to the bottom of the list. But to be fair, the balance for these two heroes have always been on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, either being overpowered or being completely useless. Finally, Junkrat is the most interesting case. It turns out among B tier heroes, he has the highest most played value at the count of 26. Now to take the new patch into account, Tracer's damage got reduced from 6 to 5.5, which is still higher than the original 5 damage from Season 1. And as for Sojourn, her primary fire spread got increased by 28%. The slow got removed from her E, and her slide cooldown is now increased from 6 to 7 seconds. These nerfs will completely drop Tracer and Sojourn from S tier to A tier at the minimum for both heroes, but these nerfs aren't big enough to knock them down further down the tier list. It's very likely that the best hero picks post-patch will be Widow and Ashe. Now the tier list for supports. We have unsurprisingly Kiriko, who remains at the throne for S tier. To put her point value into perspective, 1000 points is roughly the same level as Season 1's Sojourn and Zarya, so she's still completely broken. Even the most won value is over 50% of the top 500 support population, which is the highest value for any hero in Season 2. This indicates that Kiriko seriously needs a huge nerf. And now in A tier, we first have Ana. This is a very interesting case because the Asia region overall has a strong bias towards picking Ana in comparison to other regions. We also need to pay attention to Mercy in B tier. Compared to Season 1, the preference of Lucio has slightly shifted onto Mercy, which is most likely due to Sojourn's nerf and the boom of snipers who gained the most value from a Mercy pocket outside of Pharah. As for Zen, he's currently a complete hit or miss. He completely dominates the top 10 of the support leaderboard. There are 18 players with Zen as their number 1 most played hero, and 3 of them are on the very first page. With the new patch, Kiriko received a nerf, reducing Suzu's invulnerability duration from 1 to 0.85 seconds, as well as Ana receiving a buff to her rifle damage and healing from 70 to 75, and Biotic Grenade's effect duration being increased from 3 to 4 seconds, which includes both heal amp and anti. I honestly don't believe that Kiriko's nerf is big enough to knock her down from S tier, but we'll most likely see a reduction of Kiriko players overall. As a prediction, Ana and Kiriko will end up sharing S tier, as well as Mercy moving up to A tier and Zen moving up to B tier. In the tank tier list, unsurprisingly, is Doomfist at S tier. The point value isn't outrageously high, but the number 1 most played value is on par with Kiriko. An interesting thing about the tank tier list is that Not Available has a total point value of 88 points. Empty slots are counted independently when the players have only played 1 or 2 heroes. 88 points is more than double the value of empty slots in any of the other 2 roles, and the value in Season 1 for empty slots was 42 points. When we look at 1 tricks and 2 tricks on the leaderboard, we can see that most of them are Doomfist players who most likely rose up along with the Season 2 buffs. We can see that the previous meta picks of Roadhog and Winston are still A tier picks, and Zarya, who was dominant in Season 1, is currently taking a break down in the gutter. Junker Queen, of course, is having the worst time across all tanks thanks to Kiriko. With the new patch, Doomfist faced heavy nerfs, increasing punch cooldown from 3 to 4 seconds and minimum power block damage being increased from 80 to 100 damage, which is even higher than before. The temporary health gain was also reduced from 40 to 30 health. Orisa was buffed as well, with Terra Surge now piercing through barriers and her gun's fall-off range being increased from 15 to 25 meters. Ramatra received a buff increasing movement speed by 20% and armor bonus from 150 to 255 in Nemesis form. His barrier cooldown was also reduced from 15 to 13 seconds, and most surprisingly, Roadhog actually received no nerfs at all. Based on the new patch, it's likely that Doomfist will move down to either B tier or even potentially down to the bottom of the barrel. Hog is also very likely to move back into S tier with the absence of Doom, but Orisa could also move into A tier as well, serving as a great counter pick to Hog. As for Ramatra, we might potentially see him in B tier alongside Reinhardt and Sigma, but only time will tell whether these buffs will increase his viability in the highest ranks. So until the next patch, make sure to get some use out of Widow, Ashe, Kiriko, Ana, and Hog. We will be updating the tier list in the coming weeks to see whether our predictions were correct, and we will also be including the EU and Americas into the data soon. So hope you look forward to the next video, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Peace.